Welcome to the Handlock deck review with Zoo. Oh please, no, not with Zoo. That would be bad. Yeah. So, this is just a basic review of the Handlock Warlock deck. As I've explained, this is not going to be super in-depth because, well, I am not used to Handlock and I have not mastered it the way my priest deck has been mastered. So, yeah. Anyway, let's jump on in. I'm going to go into the collection, even though there's a deck list right here anyway. Yeah. So, this is the basic deck. Handlock is a control-style Warlock deck. It can be dangerous in that it's very hard to stop a Warlock from getting a lot of cards in hand, given that their hero power is to spend 2 mana, and to take 2 damage and then draw a card. So, yeah, that happens. They will draw cards, and this deck works really well around having large hands. Let me get out of Zoolock. You guys don't want to see that. Yeah, with cards like Mountain Giant, which cost 1 less for each other card in your hand, and also cards like... where did he go? Twilight Drake, which have a Battlecry of gain +1 health for each card in your hand. You know, this deck gets a lot of power from having a large hand size. So, yeah. There's no real way to stop this kind of a deck from getting a large hand, and they get powerful cards for it. On top of that, because Warlocks take damage off of their hero power as well, cards like Molten Giant, the 20 mana cost Giant, which costs 1 less for each damage your hero has taken, becomes a very powerful card as well, because you can't stop them from taking damage. So, this deck is basically guaranteed to get out some pretty powerful creatures. That being said, Handlock does have a weakness, and it is in fact in their health. If you are playing as a Handlock, you need to be very careful microing your health and your hand size and kind of trading off there, because it is very, very easy to get yourself so low that your opponent will be able to just kill you and not have to worry about these giant threats of creatures that you have placed on the board. It kind of depends on the decks you're playing against. If you're playing against a combo-style deck, you want to keep your health at 24 or up. Most combo-style decks can't kill that. Miracle Rogue, I know, isn't something that's extremely good at dealing 24 damage in 1 turn. Unless you don't have taunts up and they have some creatures already, but yeah, there's that. And I know hunters have a problem doing that. Shamans do as well, because their 1-turn kill combo relies on creatures too. So against those kind of combo style decks, a good way to play this is to just kind of try to get a decent sized hand, but keep large taunt minions on the board if you can. Yeah, large taunt minions are going to be the saving grace of this deck against any combo style deck, and especially against Miracle Rogue. Try to keep your health higher against combo style decks. Against control style decks, like other Handlocks, or against, yeah, just those kind of decks, you actually want to keep your health around 15. When you're at 15, Molten Giant has become cheap enough to play for a reasonable price of 5 mana. And yeah, you're usually out of killing range of those kind of decks once you have creatures with taunt out again, because control style decks typically rely on their creatures for the majority of their damage, and the most they tend to burst for is about 10 to 12 damage in 1 turn, on top of whatever's on the board. So 15 is a good health total to stay at for them. And against aggro style decks, you just want taunt minions. Get taunt, 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 everything. That's what you want. As long as you have minions on the board and they have taunt, you are winning against any kind of aggro deck. Period. Don't care about your health. Just... I need to be careful saying that, because you obviously have to worry about your health. You could kill yourself still, but powerful minions with taunt takes priority against any kind of aggro deck, so that's kind of how you want to play it. Health is secondary. You only need to watch it if you're afraid you could kill yourself, so yeah. With the deck itself, a lot of the noteworthy combos are, you will notice there are Ancient Watchers in this deck. Those are 2 mana 4/5s. Whoa, 2 mana Yetis, right? Well, they can't attack. However, comboing this with an Ironbeak Owl means that you can get a 4/5 by turn 3 or 2, depending on whether or not you coined out the Ancient Watcher. That's pretty crazy. And if you don't manage to pull that combo off, you could always use something like a Sun Fury Protector or a Defender of Argus to buff these up into really powerful meat walls, even if they can't attack. So, that's combo 1 in this deck. Combo 2. Disregard the Earthen Rings in terms of combos. They're not going to combo like they will with Priest decks and things like that. Those are just to keep your health up in certain cases where you need it up, especially useful against combo style decks. So, yeah, that's the Earthen Ring. What else? Twilight Drake, obviously one of the primary objectives of this deck is just to play big minions. So, Twilight Drakes are good to play on turn 4 with large hands. Fun note, whether you are going whether you're going first or second with Handlock, it doesn't really matter. You can play Mountain Giants on turn 4, assuming you just keep tapping. Yeah, you can do that. It's pretty crazy. So, yeah. Always keep Mountain Giants in your starting hand. Same thing with Twilight Drakes, I think. Don't take my word for that, but they're really good cards to keep. Molten Giants you don't keep, you want to draw into those because they'll be more useful later in the game when you've taken some damage. Let's see, what other noteworthy combos? I suppose for control, keeping with that element, if you are really low on health and your opponent has a massive board, one of Handlock's most powerful combos, especially if your health is at 11 or less, or even 13 or less pretty much. Forget that, 16 or less. You can drop a Molten Giant and then follow it up with a Shadow Flame. Shadow Flame is a 4 mana... Oh, I'm going to have to go into crafting mode. Anyway, Shadow Flame. It is a 4 mana spell where its text reads destroy a friendly minion and deal its attack damage to all enemy minions. This means that by playing a Mountain Giant which has 8 attack, you can then play a Mountain Giant and use Shadow Flame on it and deal 8 damage to all enemy minions. A really, really powerful form of board clear, the most powerful in the game as a matter of fact. Yeah. So that's a thing. Hellfire is also good because it's a pretty powerful turn 4 form of board clear. A note I suppose I should bring up, things you can swap out in this deck for a little bit more board control if you need that, and I think the Handlock decks that are in meta right now do this, is you can swap out Cairn and Black Knight, and switch both of those for an additional Hellfire and Shadow Flame. Just for a lot more board control. And usually decks are also swapping out the Blood Mage Thalnos for a Big Game Hunter for use against control style decks, especially Ramp Druid and other Handlocks. Big Game Hunter is a 3 mana 4/2 with a Battle Cry of destroy a minion with an attack of 5 or more. So, yeah. That's really good against control style decks, especially Handlock and Ramp Druid that play those really high attack, powerful creatures. But anyway, that being said, let's get into Handlock's major kill combo, I suppose. You will notice there is a Leroy Jenkins in this deck, and it also runs Power Overwhelming and Faceless Manipulator. Dropping a 1 Leroy plus Power Overwhelming creates a 5 mana 10/5, I believe? Yeah, no, 10/6. And then by using Faceless Manipulator, you can copy that, and you get 2 10/6s with charge. That's 20 damage for burst in 1 turn, which is really, really good as a win condition. Yeah. Other than that, Siphon Soul's pretty good as a form of board clear, to keep your health up as well. Try to save it for some of your opponent's bigger minions, because that's the only real form of guaranteed minion destruction you have. I suppose that's an interesting way to phrase it, but it's the truth. So, yeah, be careful with those. That's going to be your best way to remove big minions, so you want to really make them count. Other than that, yeah, the concepts of this deck are pretty simple. Keep a large hand size and try to build up a really powerful minions with taunt, because you have a lot of good candidates. You have the Mountain Giant, you have the Molten Giant, you have Twilight Drakes, even the Ancient Watchers. Suppose I should go over a couple of other swaps you can make in this deck. Other deck swaps you could do, but which aren't really in meta, so I don't really recommend them, is you could swap out one Ironbeak Owl. And this is basically, actually the only other thing you can swap it is if you take out an Ironbeak, you could swap it in for a Lord Jaraxxus if you want. That is a 9 mana legendary for Warlocks. You destroy your hero and replace him with Lord Jaraxxus. Your hero's health will be set to 15 as its max. Noteworthy. 15 is Jaraxxus' max health, so it will reset Molten Giant's mana value. So be very careful with that. The only time you'd really want to do this is if you're going up against a lot of control-style decks like Ramp Druid and Control Priest and decks like that. Especially because both Ramp Druid and Control Priest are very bad at dealing damage straight from the hand. They usually rely on minions to do that, so yeah. You could also switch out the Ironbeak Owl for a Black Knight. It's a 6 mana legendary with a text of destroy an enemy minion with taunt, so that's pretty good. Really good against Ramp Druids as well, because Druids run a lot of taunt minions that are really powerful. The only other thing that I guess you could do, but I wouldn't really recommend it, is you could switch out that Ironbeak Owl for another Power Overwhelming. However, I don't really recommend doing this because you saw the whole Faceless combo with Leroy Jenkins. You're only going to need the one for that combo. That being said, sometimes you'll find Power Overwhelming plus Shadow Flame can be a decent combo. So, it's really up to you, kind of depends on what you feel like you need in the deck, but yeah. Those are the other swaps you can make, and it's all swapping just for an Ironbeak Owl, because you don't always need that other silence for an Ancient Watcher. However, that combo is still powerful, silencing an Ancient Watcher to allow it to attack, so always be mindful of that, and the silence could double up is very useful against opponents, so yeah. Yep, that being said, just remember the core concepts of Handlock. Try to keep a really large hand, tap whenever you can until it's turn 4, and watch your health. Try to keep it above 24 if you're facing combo decks, and other than that, maybe around 15. Then play lots of minions and give them taunt. Yep, that's Handlock for you. Hope you guys enjoyed the Handlock deck review, and that's it for the Handlock deck review.